What's good? What's going on? Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome to another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast, coming to you via the YouTube airways. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K Sap. And today, man, we got a great show lined up for you guys today. But first, when you come across this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you turn your post notifications on so you know every time Simply Ball Dropping drops another hot banger. And if this is your first time coming across this platform and you're new to the channel, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, post your comments, share the video out. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. I see everybody in the comment section. Hashtag salute. And you know what my mantra is. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It might not be for you, but it might be for them. Well, today's show, we're going to get right off into it, man. We're going to be talking about who has the most pressure to advance in the playoffs this weekend, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my colleagues in, Mr. V and R&B, to the stage, and we're going to talk about it. What's good, fellas?
What's
Hey,
good?
what's up, man? Hey,
Yeah, okay. So, man, how's everything out there in La La Land or Maryland? How's everything going on?
snow, plenty of it.
Plenty of snow. Plenty of snow.
Yeah, it snowed today. We had snow earlier this week, so it should have did this last month, but we got it now. It's all good.
All right. Well, guys, man, we're going to get right off into it, man. So, leading into the playoffs and things, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, they've been off for, it's going to be likely 2 weeks they was off. Lamar Jackson didn't play the last game. They had the bye week, and there's a lot of pressure riding on Lamar Jackson now. Lamar Jackson, man, his career playoff record, he's 1-3 in the playoffs, and he has no conference championship games. Now, Josh Allen, we've seen what Josh Allen is capable of doing. He's 5-4 in career playoff games, and he has one conference championship appearance. But I want to ask you guys, who do y'all think has more pressure, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen? Before we get into it, I'm going to bring in Stephen A. and listen to what Stephen A. had to say.
Is there more pressure on to advance, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen?
Are you starting with me? You starting with me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean that is apropos, I must say. But let me say this to y'all. let me say this to y'all. It's got to be Lamar Jackson. It's got to be. I mean, the reality is that Josh Allen has been in an AFC Championship game. He's been to a couple of divisional playoff games. He's played lights out in a postseason game. We know what he brings to the table. It's not that he doesn't have to perform. It's not that he's devoid of pressure, because we understand this is the Buffalo Bills, this Bills Mafia. It's the only thing they got going in Western New York as far as I'm concerned. And when you look at it from that standpoint, you have to recognize he has pressure, but not like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is a former league MVP. He's about to be a two-time league MVP, which will make him the 9th person in NFL history to pull that off. And then you look at his 1-3 playoff record. Considering the season that he's had and the expectations that come with it. I'm just looking at a couple of numbers here, guys. 1-3 playoff record. He's only averaged 13 points a game in these playoffs. 56% completions, 225 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 7 turnovers, 5 interceptions, 5 total fumbles, 2 fumbles lost, sacked 19 times. When you think about those sacks, it ain't all on him, of course. It's on the team and the level of protection they provide. But nevertheless, considering how they improved the roster, you got a new offensive coordinator in Monken that's shown what he can bring to the table. You know you have an exceptional coach in John Harbaugh. You have a culture that has been lived up to. Bart Scott, you can speak to that a hell of a lot better than any of us when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. You see that the fabric of who they are is firmly intact if Lamar Jackson is intact.
Now, you guys, you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say, man. So we'll start off with you, R&B. Who do you think got more pressure to advance, Lamar or Josh Allen?
From my perspective, it's definitely going to be Lamar, but not for the reasons that Stephen A. said. I would take it from the perspective that Baltimore is the 1 seed. Mm-hmm. So there's always going to be pressure from that perspective. And number 2, it's from Lamar negotiating his own contract, in the sense that he's saying that invest in me. Well, now it's time to see if that investment is good money. And that's where I'm looking at it from that perspective, that he bet on himself. Now, Baltimore is betting on him. So I'm looking at Josh Allen really as having house money. And I say house money because they weren't even supposed to be in the playoffs. They had to run the table literally just to get in.
Correct.
So they're fortunate enough just to get in. And I just don't look at Josh really having much pressure on them because, I mean, if they lose to Kansas City, would anybody be surprised? No. Nobody's going to be surprised by that at all. So I'm looking at the pressure being on Baltimore along with Lamar leading the show.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. And it's been over 3 years since we saw Lamar Jackson in the playoffs when the Ravens, they lost to Buffalo 17-3 in that divisional round. And that was mostly because Jackson suffered a season-ending injuries in each of the previous 2 years. But like I've always stated, he was the MVP. And what I've always stated is them last 2 games of the regular season when they had so much momentum 3 years ago, and he had set out the last 2 games and they had a bye week, and when they got into the playoffs, they was rusty and they got bounced out, and that showed. And I've been telling people that, okay, the last game of the season this year, Lamar has set out. They had a rhythm. He started picking it up. Now he was forced to set out because they wasn't trying to risk the injuries. Then they had a bye week. So now they going in, against the Houston Texans. But the Houston Texans, like I always say, Houston Texans plays in some good weather. But they come into Baltimore where it's going to be some inclement weather. So I think it will benefit Lamar. But I agree with you, Rob. Lamar Jackson has a lot of pressure on him to perform because, like you stated, the contract that he structured to get the money to, let Baltimore know, hey, y'all can trust in me. Now Baltimore's putting that trust in them. So, Mr. V, how do you feel about the situation? Is it Lamar or Josh Allen?
Not to be long-winded, I'll piggyback what y'all just said. It Lamar Jackson, for all the reasons you just stated. The pressure's on him. Baltimore's playing at home, number 1 seed, great season, MVP level season for Lamar. Back in the show, like Rob said, he's got the contract, got the money, and the expectations, I think, more are on the Ravens and what they're going to do. I think they're looking at, and their fan base is looking at, hey, we need to go to the Super Bowl to validate everything.
Exactly.
Whereas Rob said, Josh Allen and crew, house money. They seemingly overachieved already. So whatever they do now, most people can see that as a plus. They got farther than a lot of people expected them to be, several weeks ago. So Lamar Jackson, without question.
Yeah, and Rob, you made a good point where, Buffalo, nobody expected Buffalo to be there because Buffalo did have to run the table. And, when their back was against the wall, Josh Allen stepped up. But like we've always said, what do we always say, Rob? We've seen this movie before. And with Josh Allen, Josh Allen, he'll win them regular season games. Yeah, he's been in a conference championship, but I don't trust Josh Allen when it comes down to decision making. And when I say that is because you go back and look when they played Kansas City in that divisional game, right? And Josh Allen, it was the interceptions that decided that game. Even though, Buffalo scored with like 40-some seconds left, but they left too much time for Patrick Mahomes to go down there and, win the game. But it was the turnovers that Josh Allen was displaying in the course of that game that really kind of derailed it because Josh Allen is going to do something. He's going to force one of them balls in there. But in this sense, when we're talking about the pressure, I don't think Josh Allen has no pressure. And like Rob said, if they lose to Kansas City, nobody will be talking about it because Kansas City is supposed to win. But at the same time, Lamar, like you said, Mr. V, Lamar got the number 1 seed, and he's at home. So, Rob, how do you feel about what you see in Josh Allen, even though there's no pressure on him? Do you think he can pull off the victory against Kansas City?
I think you can get the victory, but at the same time, Josh had issues throughout the season where he's had turnovers. There's been a disconnect between him and Diggs. So it's one of those things where if he feels that he has to go out there and play hero ball, I think they can be in trouble. I think they have to utilize the weapons, use the run, whether it's him or, using the backs. to kind of minimize the pressure. But I think if it gets to him, he is a playmaker. But at the same time, he can be reckless. He's a gunslinger. He's more of a Brett Favre type, where he's going to throw it in tight pockets. Aaron Rodgers throw it in tight pockets, risk, reward situations. So, I mean, it all depends on where his mindset is, how he feels he needs to approach the game. If he feels that he needs to go win the game himself, he's in trouble, period, hands down.
Yeah, I mean, we always say that when you get outside of the scheme and you start trying to play hero ball. But the thing about Josh Allen, I've always looked at Josh Allen and I try to compare him to like the Cam Newton style of play. And when Cam Newton was playing, Cam Newton would, utilize his feet, man, get the yardage and stuff like that, try to big boy you. But when people started laying the wood on him, he started looking to the official for calls. Now, there was a particular play that stood out to me last week when Josh Allen had that 56-yard touchdown run. And that's the thing I say about the NFL. The NFL gotta get this right. Because if you look at the play in its whole totality, Josh Allen was he was gonna slide, but he faked the slide. Now the defense is in the trick bag. We don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So then that's how Josh Allen had got through that gap, and he took it to the house. So Mr. V, what you see in Josh Allen in his play, like I asked R&B, do you think he can pull off the win against Kansas City?
Yeah, any given Sunday, it can happen. They play well. They stick to what they've been doing. He sticks to what he's good at. And again, don't try to play hero ball or go out of your element too much to try to win the game. And of course, they can do that. Kansas City hasn't had the best year this year. They've shown some vulnerabilities right there. So it depends on how he catches them. There. Yeah. But scrutiny-wise, if Josh Allen goes out and let's say he does too much or has a subpar game, he'll get the criticism that he deserves, but it wouldn't be to the level that Lamar would get. If Lamar goes out and tries to do an inch over too much, or if he's too conservative, they're going to crucify him. He's going to get fried if they're not successful. So I say that to say, again, like R&B said before, Josh Allen can go out and play loose. If he thinks about it, he can go out and play loose. Like, hey, house money's I got the house money. We ain't supposed to be here. If we lose, they ain't going to jump on me too much. We kind of achieve this season. So I can go play free with a little bit less pressure, whereas Lamar comes in and all eyes on him. What's he going to do? Is he going to try to run too much? Is he going to just try to stay in the pocket and get out of his element and do a little bit less than what he normally does? And they're going to be looking at him. So, yeah, Josh Allen can come in and win. That would be the one. This setup, like Rob said, like you kind of said, is the perfect time for him to come in, do what he does, maybe try a little bit more because he's like, well, hey, what do I got to lose by going out here and doing it? And they could come away with a victory, over Kansas City and surprise folks.
Man, I can see that happening because you made a great point because Kansas City hasn't been Kansas City all year long.
Right.
They started out with that defeat against the Detroit Lions, which, shout out to the Lions. They playing lights out football.
Oh, yes.
But at the same time, Lamar Jackson, it's going to be huge tomorrow, man. Lamar Jackson, it's a lot of pressure, man. And like I said, can Lamar Jackson get back and find that rhythm that he had coming on strong late in the season without the likes of their big man, Mark Andrews, and finding a new target in Likely? Odell Beckham Jr. stepping up. You got the young guys, Zay Flowers. You got guys, you got Bateman. These guys are stepping up. And also Gus Edwards is, paying big dividends. But like I've always said, that running back that went down with the ACL, I forgot his name, Keelan Mitchell or something, their running back. Hey, I was liking him, but Gus the bus. But they also signed Dalvin Cook. So, like I've stated, I've seen Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook was, a member of the team that I cheer for, the Minnesota Vikings. I know what Dalvin Cook can bring to the table, so that's going to be a good mix-up. But in this situation, I think if Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh stick to the game plan, I think, Baltimore should come out. I mean, like you said, but Houston, they can come in loosely, just like we saw last week how Green Bay came into, to the Cowboy Stadium and played loose and got out there with a victory. But at the same time, we all agree that there is so much pressure on Lamar Jackson because 3 years ago, we seen this script that he was, everything had to come through Baltimore, and what happened? They took an L, and you know, they started scrutinizing Lamar, and I think that was the hold up on the contract, because at that time, you know, the franchise was saying, hey, can we win with this guy? You know what I'm saying? But injuries slowed him down, but I just hope Lamar comes out, gets into a rhythm, get his guys going, and we'll see what it does, man. So in closing, y'all's prediction of tomorrow's game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills, I want to hear from you, Mr. B. What's your prediction?
Simple. I see Kansas City going in and taking the win, because we talked about they had a subpar season as they would have expected it to be. You know, I think they come out and they play their normal style of football, and they get to win over Josh Allen and crew. And with Baltimore, if Baltimore comes out relaxed and normal, like they've been doing the regular season, and doesn't let the media and everything else apply that pressure where they feel they have to go out and prove themselves. If they come in, I think if they come in with the mindset, hey, fellas, let's do what we normally do. Let's go out and play the way we normally did. Yes, it's a playoff game. Yes, we're going for the Super Bowl, but let's do what we did to get us here. Let's just keep that mindset. Then, you know, it should be a win for Baltimore. So, yeah, with that, I predict Kansas City takes that win, and Baltimore wins, I'll say, comfortably. You know, they didn't run away, but I think they win comfortably. And part of that, I'll admit, is me being optimistic for them as far as their mindset coming in, doing what they do. Go ahead and get a warm-up. I won't say a warm-up game because there's no warm-up games in NFL playoffs. But, you know, come out, get back into it, and get ready. Use this game as the surge for that push to the Super Bowl.
Totally agree. Now, R&B, what's your predictions?
Fun's over. The fun's over. And I say that in the context that I'm being for real.
Okay.
The fun's over. So from a Baltimore-Houston perspective, yeah, you did what you did. That's fine. That's a wrap. That's a wrap. That's done. Baltimore, comfortable.
Okay.
They because you're playing at a different level, and Houston had a nice season, but now the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
And Baltimore has the pedigree that will show you, look, and I'm not just saying it just to be saying it. San Francisco came to town too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Great
Right?
points. Great
Yep.
points. Yeah.
So they left
Mm-hmm.
beat up.
Yep.
That's why I say the fun's over.
Okay. Got you. Great point.
Look,
Great point.
now, the other game, Kansas City ain't been playing good all season. They haven't been able to score in the second half.
Yeah.
Buffalo, playing at home, elements, they're even.
Exactly.
They're even. Right? But who's hot right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who's hot?
Because they got
Buffalo's-
momentum.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Buffalo's hot. They playing at home. Josh has this momentum right now.
Yeah.
Mahomes, he's a great quarterback,
Mhm.
but he's also been struggling to connect with his key receivers. And I think just because that they have these lapses during the season, I think they'll struggle again. I think they'll struggle against better teams as they've done all season. Buffalo, Baltimore. Buffalo, Baltimore.
Well, I
I'll let
totally
you
agree
go.
with I totally agree with both of you guys. I'm riding with Baltimore, and also I'm taking Buffalo. Buffalo is hot, you know. And the thing about it is, you know, with the hotness of Buffalo, things are just gonna, you know, trickle down. You know what I'm saying? They coming in on a high. They playing at home, like you said. The weather is not a issue for neither team. You know what I'm saying? But Kansas City still got Patrick Mahomes, and that's sometimes that could be the great equalizer.
Yeah,
You know
but
what I'm
look, he not going. He's got to throw the ball to be successful.
Yeah.
Josh can throw the ball and
run the
also
ball.
run the ball.
Yeah.
He's more versatile.
Let me ask this short question. You both said Buffalo got to where they are because of that late season surge.
Yes.
Kansas City is where they are because of how they played throughout the season. If both of them play their normal game, because Buffalo got there because they're hot now. So to keep that, they have to remain hot. What happens if they go back to the regular Buffalo versus the, quote, regular Kansas City, who has a chip on their shoulder or could, to come back and say, hey, we're Super Bowl champs. Let's play like we can play. We had an up and down season, but we're going to get back to what we do.
So
That's
here's
how I look at it there.
Here's what I would say to that. Where does Buffalo's struggles come from? Josh throwing interceptions.
Exactly.
Josh, you know what I'm saying? Josh trying to do a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
When they righted the ship, it wasn't so much about that. You know what I mean? He's throwing a little bit. He's running a little bit, having some fun, playing loose, doing things that he's really good at. So it's been a minute since they've really had those struggles from that perspective. Now, Pat, he's just struggled all year. Not necessarily himself,
right,
but as a team. You can look up the stats. They probably, if they've scored 400 points for the season, they've scored 100 in the second half.
Gotcha.
For whatever reason, they're struggling in the second half. It may be teams making adjustments to whatever they're doing. It might be one of those things where, hey, to bite off your words, we've seen this show before, and are they really feeling the impact of the enemy not being there calling the plays? And why I say that is, if you watched the enemy couple of weeks ago calling plays against Dallas, he pulled out the bag, and literally he didn't have the talent for the Commanders to win the game, but you could see he had a trick bag, and if he would have had some pieces to go with that bag, Dallas could have been in trouble in that game. So, literally. So with him not being there, is that the reason that the offense is struggling right now?
Great point.
Look, because they've been struggling.
Yeah, great point. Well, guys,
Kelsey's 34.
Yeah, I got you.
Miami was hot, and then you saw what happened to them in Kansas City.
They got popped.
Yeah,
so.
look, I'm gonna say this. You play that game in San Francisco, you play that game, I don't care where you play it at. Change the temperature 50 degrees. Change the temperature 60 degrees. They win that game. They win that game. Man, come on, man. Them dudes, they used to playing in 80 degrees, 70-degree weather.
That weather.
And you put them in, you literally put them in a situation where it's like, woo-hoo-hoo.
No, they put themselves in that situation because they squandered the second half of the season.
No, I get it. And look, sometimes it's not always that cold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a mind thing. Like Tyreek Hill said, it's a mind thing. You go out there saying you're going to be cold, you're going to be cold.
Mm-hmm.
I know, but look, just like Pat's helmet cracked up, it cracked up for a reason.
It was cold.
And you've never seen that.
Yeah.
You've never seen that.
But hey,
ever.
I got you. But hey guys, that was great. What I'm going to do here, man, we're going to let people know, man, post your comments down in the comments section. Let me know how you feel. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you share the video out. And this is going to wrap up another episode of the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. I'm your host and the man behind the mic, K-Sap. We're going to catch you on the next one. Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Ball Dropping Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share on all major platforms.
Another one.